Hello, and welcome back to another Tales from my Backlog, where I have managed to sit through The Exorcist, a film that is now 50 years old and came out in 1973 and is considered a cult classic horror movie. So, what did I think of it? Well, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I fully expected, going into this movie that I would be, you know, scared at some of the scenes. And I actually wasn't. Now, granted, I did watch this during the day with the lights on, so that could be a contributing factor to why I wasn't scared, or it's just the fact that it just wasn't that all that scary. Kind of. I understand that for the time that it came out 50 years ago, that it was considered to be like this really big scary story. The fact that it's also based on a true story from the 40s as well is also another contributor factor. But as well, the only really horror like stuff that happens in the movie is kind of tame compared to what I would normally associate with a horror movie. But that's again a 50-year time gap. Like I said, this came out in 1973, and it is going to be completely different to the more modern films, and it's even getting a remake at some point of this movie that I'm aware of. But other than that, I like I said, I enjoyed this movie. It was a really good movie. Um, I loved the characters in it. That the fall mainly, the main father priest that we follow. We see him. You see, okay, just take a deep breath. So the version that I'm watching on this DVD is apparently the 25th anniversary edition of the movie. And in it, the director, William, talks about how, for the first 2 minutes of the movie, he talks about how everyone gets a different feeling to from take away from the movie. And that is true. As someone who doesn't really care much about the Catholic Church or even believe in that, demons and heaven and all that, I am an atheist. So I didn't really take anything away from this movie from that. But that's something that I do love about this movie is the fact that the main priest is questioning his faith. He's a priest psychologist. He's seen it all, he's heard it all. And it's not until, the mother of Reagan uh, goes to him and is like, hey, look, I've taken my child to so many doctors, to so many psychiatrists, and I believe she is possessed. And so, the priest is like very not going to agree with her and all that stuff because at that point, modern at that time medicine has progressed, so they know about schizophrenia and all these other different contributors that back in the day wasn't so well known, and so priests and the church attributed those mental disorders as people being possessed. And so it's not until he's gone and visited her, Reagan, twice and actually recorded her the second time that he then brings it to the church. The first time he goes, she does. The Reagan possessed, you know, brings up that he's a priest, even though he's not in official priest garbs, and the fact that his mother died. And then just as he's leaving, he asks Reagan's mother, like, did she know that I was a priest? And did she know that my mother died recently? And the answer to both questions was no. So that's how he started to get the gears turning of maybe she is possessed. And so he brings some recording equipment. And he gets he records some stuff. Some of the stuff Reagan possessed speaks is in Latin and French. and then in reverse. She speaks English in reverse. And it's not until the priest plays it to someone that he's like, you do know that's English in reverse, and so he then plays it in reverse. Because one of the questions the father asked on the first visit was, if you know my mother, then what is her maiden name? And I believe that's what he hears when it's being played in reverse, is his mother's maiden name, and that's what makes him believe that this is the proper possession, which is why he brings it to the church. And then they bring in this priest who has had experience in the past, and they go through the whole exorcism. Reagan ends up killing him, so that's her second victim, because prior to early on in the movie, she did kill somebody else by throwing him out the window. Um, and so then when the main character, the main priest, sees this, he basically goes to beat the living fuck out of Reagan, and he's like, "Go, come into me," basically telling this demon that's in Reagan to possess him, and it does that, but the priest still has enough willpower to then flung himself out the window, self-sacrificing himself, um, in the process, with the demon still inside him. And yeah, like I said, it's a really, really great movie. Really, really well shot. Like it holds up 50 years later, and it's no wonder it's a lot of people's favorite horror movie. And it's no wonder why there's been so many movies that have come, horror movies that have come after this, that has emulated this movie in some shape or form. And it's why it's got a handful of sequels. They may not be the best sequels. I don't know. I haven't watched them. This is the only time I've ever watched The Exorcist. Um, and yeah, also, fun fact about this movie, when it came out, it was actually banned in Ireland, where I live, for 25 years. Uh, yeah, it was one of those movies that was banned because, early Ireland, up until I think like the 90s, was like heavily Catholic and heavily indoctrinated into the Catholic Church and all that stuff. So of course they were going to ban this movie from Ireland. Um, but yeah, that is going to wrap up this review. I really, really enjoyed this movie. Um, I don't think I'll ever watch it again. To me, it's a one and done. But maybe again, if I'm staying over, like if I'm over at a friend's house and they stick it on, I'll watch it, no problem. But to me, it's a one and done, and I will, of course, trade this into CEX, or have traded it into CEX, because I'm actually recording this on the 17th of September. So yeah. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I forget what I'm doing next. So yeah, after this, on the 23rd, will be my review of the second Twitches movie. So I will see you all for that one.